Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid is no more. Tonight on FTN Today, we have some massive reports breaking across Europe as I tackle the biggest stories of the day and give you guys the recap and the important things that you guys need to know. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's tackle today's first report. Now we start with things by discussing Xabi Alonso's exit from Real Madrid. Let's go to Real Madrid's official site to get the statement. And as they say, Real Madrid announced that by mutual agreement between the club and Xabi Alonso, it has been decided to end his time as the first team coach. Alonso will have the affection and admiration of Madrid fans because he is a legend here and has always represented the values of our club. Madrid will always be his home. All right. Our club thanks Xabi and his entire technical team. And long story short, after 7 months, he is here no more. It's kind of crazy, the timing of the story. But is it really surprising considering all the reports, all the insider news, all this constant news surrounding the disconnect between the Real Madrid squads and Xabi Alonso? I'll be tackling that, and I think after Madrid lost to Barcelona yesterday in the Super Cup at 3-2, you're seeing the evidence on the screen beside me. You're seeing clear examples of the disconnect between the squad and Xabi Alonso, with Alonso calling for his squad to create a guard of honor and show respect to Barcelona. However, Mbappe is encouraging his teammates to ignore that and go straight to the tunnel. I find it quite fascinating. On one hand, you're completely undermining the manager, and it seems to be the story of Alonso's life at Real Madrid this season. But on the other hand, should Alonso not also be united with his players? If the energy from his team is that, you know what, it was a fierce, tough game, some things went against us, we're not going to show respect to our eternal rivals. Well, like, why are you not backing it with us? If this was Mourinho or other managers, do you think Mourinho is going to do this fake type of respect gimmick? Absolutely not. So it's just food for thought in this capacity. In the meantime, though, we do know that Arbeloa is set to take over until the end of the season as Real Madrid's interim manager. So at the moment, Madrid is one of the most high-pressure jobs for any manager in the world, and with Alonso now leaving, it continues that reputation. You can have the best ideas, the best tactics. You can be doing amazing things prior, like we saw literally from Xabi Alonso. I mean, you know, the CV he built for himself, getting that invincible season with Leverkusen. You know, he was perfectly suited and molded to take the challenge at the Bernabeu. But now he becomes the latest victim, and it continues to be this eternal battle between the coach and the superstar. How do you unite and find that perfect balance? Alonso's ideas definitely work, and you'd imagine that he felt to himself, you know what, if I had the backing of the boards, if I was allowed to get some of the players that I needed to make things work, I've already proven that my ideas and my methods, they bring results. For me to take Leverkusen unbeaten across an entire season, to take them to European finals too, yet with barely any budget to work with, I must be a special guy to create that type of footballing history. And for sure, you know, he can hold his chest up and he can be very proud of his achievements. But when you go to Real Madrid, a team full of superstars, where it's the players on the spotlight, the players who get the attention. A lot of times, managers who tend to overcoach or feel like their tactics and ideas are more important do struggle at Real Madrid, because that is a club where the players must have the platform to shine. And there were so many reports circulating suggesting that Madrid players weren't as impressed with his methods and his tactics, and I think this was no more evident than Alonso's relationship with Vinicius Jr. It's led to a point where Vinny himself felt like he's not signing any contract renewal until he knows that Alonso isn't going to be here anymore. It continues that player power, but at Real Madrid, player power, the Galactico, the superstar, that is essential. That is part of their business model. You know, they are the club that have to sign the very best the world can offer. That's what keeps their club running. That's what gets them all the sponsors, global platform, just everything that makes them the most powerful club in world football. So you need to come to Real Madrid understanding that you, the coach, you're kind of the backup guy. You're there to just satisfy the egos, make them happy, find that balance, do what you have to do. And, Zinedine Zidane, Ancelotti, at the moment, they've been the most successful managers in the modern era for Real Madrid because they completely understand that balance you must work with and how you're basically there to kind of platform and make those players shine. So it's definitely quite fascinating that in the end, Alonso decided, you know what, I need to leave. After seeing what happened last night, he realized that there's not much left he can do at Real Madrid now. He's getting undermined from the top, from his squad. They don't trust his ideas or his tactics. What's the point of remaining there when you know that you can't really work properly and he won't be really allowed to cook there? So I think he's made the admirable decision because Alonso is going to have a ton of clubs chasing him in the summer. Yeah? No other club operates like Real Madrid. He's going to be good. He's going to be fine. But again, that eternal debate between the player and the manager continues after this recent episode. I find it very fascinating in that sense. I know that Mbappe will be seen as the main villain yet again, but to be fair, there was reports really focusing around Vinny Jr. And in my opinion, I've always felt like one of the difficulties that managers are going to have to is finding that balance between using Mbappe, Vinny, Rodrigo, because I understand that the Galactico is part of the business model, but it does kind of maybe undermine what happens on the pitch. You do need that balance. I think the best Madrid team I saw after Benzema left was when Bellingham was playing up front with Rodrigo and Vinny Jr. It had the perfect amount of balance. With Mbappe being introduced, it's kind of shifted things even more now. It means that you're going to have less pressing up top. You need to create the perfect conditions for Mbappe to also operate in, which is kind of coming in from the left-hand side, which is going to kind of undermine Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo. So you only have problems. You only have tactical headaches when you're trying to find that perfect balancing point with that front three, knowing the fact that you don't really have the midfield that can maybe take advantage and complement the lack of defending from that front three. It becomes very difficult, becomes very challenging in that sense. And I can understand why Alonso will feel like, you know what? I don't make sense at this club anymore. And it's kind of ironic. He came from there. He knows the culture. He knows how it gets. He's had his own times with his teammates back then when managers that weren't performing also got the boot and left the football club, right? So, yeah, it's just absolutely mad that it's happened. But I guess it's not surprising whatsoever. So let's see how Madrid now cope. It wasn't like Alonso was doing anything terrible. I know they're currently 4 points behind Barcelona. I understand there's been certain, not winning cup games as well doesn't help. But it wasn't an unsalvageable situation. So for Alonso to decide, you know what, I've had it. The disagreements with my ideas, my tactics, the fact that the players don't really respect me or rate me in that sense. What am I doing here? Why am I wasting my time? I shouldn't be at this football club. And I guess leaving with your head held high is better than waiting for Real Madrid to eventually sack you and then damaging your PR and your credibility. So, yeah, it's completely insane, but that's life, man. And I feel like this January's been like one of the most ruthless months I've ever seen in my life for manager sackings. It's absolutely crazy. But good luck to Arbeloa. How are you going to balance your Bellinghams and your Valverdes and your attacks and all the options you possess right now? It's absolutely mad. This is the same Madrid club that's hoping to bring back Nico Paz as well. It's only going to be headaches in the future. So there you have it, my friends. Leave your thoughts and opinions on everything surrounding Xabi Alonso departing Real Madrid, because now we got some massive updates to sink our teeth into. And we are learning tonight that Tottenham are now emerging as the favourites to sign Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid. Now, if you guys were unaware, it was actually Aston Villa today who were leading the running to sign Conor Gallagher. The little hold-up they had was finding a future for Harvey Elliott. Of course, he's disappointed on his loan. There was a 35 million obligation to buy included in that deal. And naturally, Aston Villa won't be paying that type of money whatsoever. So there was a little hold up in terms of how they were going to free up the funds, because Aston Villa must also abide to details like PSR. Has this given Tottenham the opportunity now to steam in and get this deal over the line ahead of Aston Villa? It's looking like that, because you guys, it was kind of mad, man. Romano was coming out stating that at the moment, Aston Villa are the ones that are now advancing to potentially secure an obligation to buy loan type of deal, which is the mad thing. So this news has just escalated in no time. And at the time of recording, not only have Tottenham now hijacked the deal, but it seems like they have now got this deal wrapped up, because now Spurs are agreeing to pay 40 million euros, around 35 million pounds, to sign him on a permanent deal. As Atletico Madrid said, they are only selling Conor Gallagher if they're getting guaranteed money at the end. He won't be leaving purely on a loan type of basis. So this is crazy, because Villa were set to agree that loan with obligation to buy. Tottenham have had an offer accepted. I guess it comes down to Conor Gallagher now deciding on where his future makes the most sense. Now, I got some thoughts and opinions on Conor Gallagher. Being a Chelsea fan, he was very incredible under Mauricio Pochettino that season. I think 7 goals, 9 assists. When Enzo and Caicedo were still finding themselves, Conor Gallagher was the leader, and the midfield at the time, we needed it. So I'm really fascinated to know what his decision is going to be. Now, Gallagher's thinking, this season at Atleti, my game time has gone down. I'm not getting many minutes in the league. I'm mainly playing in cup games, and I've become that squad guy overnight after I was bought for £38 million in this crazy swap deal with Joao Felix, and I made 50 appearances last season. At Atleti, he played mostly as a wide midfield player a lot of times, and I guess he didn't necessarily get those box-to-box qualities in this game. It wasn't able to really showcase, those box-to-box qualities. So going to Aston Villa, going to Tottenham, he will have that position ready for him to play his optimal style of football. And in Gallagher, not only does he have the goal threat, the guy is one of the most energetic, fittest, tough tackling, ball-winning mids in Europe, in my opinion. Even at Atleti, the guy is still winning at least 3 tackles a game. And going to either club offers both Spurs or Aston Villa a real weapon to add in their midfield. Even more intensity. For Aston Villa, Gallagher could really help them potentially secure a Champions League spot after the amazing run they've had right now. But for Tottenham, they are in desperate need for his services, with Bentancur unfortunately getting yet again another injury and also clearly being under the decline. They've been relying upon using DMs and Palhinha, whose game is to kind of keep things safe and keep it short. And then they have other midfield players that, have gone to the African Cup of Nations or don't really offer that dynamism, offer that intensity. They don't set the tempo. They aren't pressing and pushing high, adding the type of energy that Tottenham have been coming under a lot of scrutiny for not having. Now, for both Villa and Tottenham, Gallagher's been a long-term target for the last 2-3 years. Postecoglou wanted this guy desperately. Unai Emery has been trying to get him tied down for time. And before he went to Atletico Madrid last year, Villa had a £57 million bid accepted by us for Gallagher from Chelsea. But Gallagher turned them down. So now he must think, what is the best club to go to that guarantees my position in the World Cup squad, but also my future as I'm, coming into my peak? Do I go to Tottenham, which is, the eternal rivals to my boyhood club in Chelsea? That's a tough one to do. But maybe that could kind of set you up financially and allows you to live in London. But on the other hand, if you go to Aston Villa, you could be boosting your chances of getting a World Cup place. And also you're playing for the informed team, a team that will use you all the time, and might be the more sensible move. I feel like Villa, have been the perfect option for many players, but players keep turning them down. So let's watch this space because Conor Gallagher is set to return back to the Premier League. And at the moment, it seems like his future is going to be with Tottenham, which I'm not going to lie, you guys, being a Chelsea fan, if you guys are unaware, and it don't sit right with me. So they're my thoughts. And now we move on to the next story. And we discuss big news and reports surrounding Marc Guehi. It seems like Marc Guehi could be leaving Crystal Palace before this month ends. It's looking kind of insane. Man City, they're on smoke in this window. They splashed 65 million on Semenyo. But now that Gavardio has had a long-term injury, and with the long-term future surrounding your John Stones and Nathan Ake kind of being, unpredictable at the moment, Marc Guehi becomes the ready-made Prem star that can single-handedly bring City's defence back up again. At the moment, we're hearing a lot of interesting things surrounding this deal. Let's turn to the reports right now. I'm going to use the Independent to help explain the story, but City are now locked in talks with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace ideally had a gentleman's agreement with Marc Guehi that he'd stay with them until the end of the season and maybe sign pre-contract agreements in January with clubs like Madrid and Bayern Munich and many clubs in the Premier League showing a lot of interest for his services. Now, in the summer last season, he had a 35 million bid accepted to go to Liverpool, but that move flopped near the end in the final hours. So that meant that he went back to Crystal Palace, and now there is belief that Marc Guehi could be open now to leaving Palace this month. And it comes down to some context that includes things like not wanting to leave on the free so Palace can earn some money from his sale. As we're learning, Man City have made an opening offer at £20 million, which Crystal Palace are going to be rejecting. Ideally, Palace want around 35 to 40 million. For a guy that has like less than 6 months left until he's a free agent, that's crazy money, but it sums up the financial power that Man City have and the desperation. Because if the reports are true that this could be Guardiola's final season, getting Semenyo, getting Guehi, you're 6 points behind Arsenal. This is the moment now to apply some serious pressure and try and end the season on glory for Guardiola's potential final season. This could be the only explanation behind why they won't just wait another few months and get this guy on a free. But it does seem like what I'm also hearing too is that maybe Crystal Palace might budge if City offer players in exchange. Now, 2 players Crystal Palace are looking towards. That's Oscar Bob on a potential loan deal until the end of the season. That helps out Man City because now they've signed Semenyo. They have to let go of one of their attacking players. And another player that Crystal Palace really like is Nathan Ake. Nathan Ake is not getting as much game time. He wants to play for the World Cup, for his national team. Could there be opportunities for either one of these guys or both to make temporary moves or permanent ones at Crystal Palace if it allows Marc Guehi to come right now? Let's watch this space, but it does seem like City might be able to get their man because they're also offering a madness, and that is they'll look to make Guehi one of the most highest earning players in the squads if he decides to leave them and come right now. Now, Marc Guehi's offer for Man City is going to be around 250k. That's what some of the rumours and reports are suggesting at the moment. That's big money. And the reason why Man City are offering such high wages is that with him possibly, missing out on getting a massive signing on fee if he was to sign for any club as a free agent, they'll look to offset some of those potential losses with a much higher wage packet to entice him. And I'm sure like a pretty respectable signing on fees. So at the moment, Guehi's in peak form. I mean, the goals and assists from Guehi this season have been absolutely crazy. I'm a Chelsea fan. I've seen this kid come through my academy. I said years back, I see Guehi going right to the top. I'm not surprised by what he's doing right now. And, it shows Man City's ruthlessness, financial power, that they can just kind of come in right now and snap up players like this. So that's the Guehi news out the way, my friends. We have 2 more reports before I end things, and let's discuss the latest surrounding Man United. And at the moment, we're learning that Michael Carrick is set to return back to Man United as the interim manager for the second time. Now, I think last time he was the interim replacing Solskjaer. I think he had 3 games. Was it like 2 wins, 1 draw? So I think for Man United, it makes a bit of sense to be responsible and, hire an interim instead of forcing signing a manager who could possibly have the same fate that Amorim had. For managers like that, ideally, pre-season, you know who you're going to work with, what type of power and say you're going to have, and there's a lot more space to kind of navigate your way at the club and get your ideas across the team. Having all that pressure of competing doesn't help, so it makes sense that United will turn towards a player that understands the club, that was hugely successful for them, that has managed before, that had a pretty decent time as Middlesbrough's manager too, before obviously things went a bit sour near the end. So for Manchester United, this is probably the most responsible thing they could do in terms of hiring an interim. And let's see what type of ideas that Carrick can possibly bring to Old Trafford. I mean, I made a mistake. He replaced Ragnick at the time. That was it. It wasn't Solskjaer. But I don't know. I think Man United fans got humbled a bit recently. They got brought back down to reality when they lost 2-1 to Brighton. A lot of the things they asked for, opportunities for Lacey, using wingers, playing a more traditional way, they really got exposed against Brighton. And for many Man United fans, they felt like it was like going back in time to watch the team tactically digress. It didn't make too much sense for them. So I think if you're Man United right now, forget the principles, philosophy and all that. Prioritize results. That's what you're in the business of doing. Hopefully you try and get yourselves European football and then build again properly in the summer. And with managers being available and being about, this could be the most responsible long-term play for Manchester United right now, instead of reacting hastily to the market. But Glasner's, Alonso's, and many managers are going to be about. So that's United news out the way, and we now end things with the final report. And surprising news, but we are learning that Lucas Paqueta has asked to leave West Ham to go back to his former club in Flamengo. This was big news that's emerging right now. Flamengo want to pay 30 million euros for his signature. The 28-year-old who has been meaning to leave West Ham for a minute. We all know the gambling controversy that kind of denied his move to Man City. Paqueta's only 28. He's technically in the prime of his career. But it seems like maybe the call to go back home is just too large to ignore right now. Let's see if West Ham decide to this though. Obviously losing their key player as they're hoping to avoid relegation is probably the worst thing that could hit them and the squad right now. But you could argue, even though Paqueta has his qualities, personally I feel like he's been incredibly stifled at West Ham. I feel like losing players on his wavelength like Mohamed Kudus isn't helpful. I think working under Graham Potter as well, where he was used up front at times and used in many different roles and ways, wasn't particularly helpful. And just kind of being at a football club, they don't have concrete ideas and ways of playing, isn't going to help your cause whatsoever. So I could kind of understand that call to go back home. Of course, they got money now in Brazil. You can play in the Copa Libertadores, and the Liga is still strong enough to allow you to secure your World Cup spots as well. Paqueta, I think, is a great all-round attacking player who should have been playing at a higher level a long time ago. But there are some soft rumours suggesting that Chelsea might be making a late offer to try and entice Paqueta to remain in the Premier League. With his profile, he could be an interesting, experienced option alongside some of the young players, and he kind of, be that perfect type of link-up player for your Estevals and Coes to play with. So let's watch that space. Let's see if anything else progresses. And let's see if West Ham feel the pressure now to have to let Paqueta leave and go. It's going to be a really fascinating window. A lot of things are heating up in January. Make sure you guys are locked in on FTN Today, Football Transfer News Today, to get all the latest reports and updates on the biggest stories daily. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Love.